So in this video, we're going to talk about summaries and breaks and why they're so important, how we do them and when we do them.
So, shall we have a look at the file, Mike?
Absolutely, yeah. Let me open that up for us here.
Great. So, when do you summarize and how do you summarize in a negotiation?
Yeah, so firstly, summarizing is absolutely crucial in a negotiation. Whether you have somebody with you who is your dedicated summarizer that you can turn to at any point and say, please give us a summary, or if you're negotiating alone, you still need to be able to give a summary and make sure that you know what's been agreed, what hasn't been agreed, etc. Because there's nothing worse in a negotiation than a misunderstanding that isn't uncovered quickly. If something is misunderstood, you don't want to wait to the end of the negotiation where you say, okay, we've agreed this, 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 and this. And then they turn around and say, actually, no, the first point we never agreed to. That was misunderstood. Because then the entire negotiation can break down very, very quickly. And we've seen it happen. So why do you summarize? Firstly, it avoids confusion. It avoids that situation happening later on. It makes sure that everybody is together, has an understanding of what's been agreed all the way through the process. It avoids reopening agreed issues. So once you've made an agreement on something, that's there, that's solid, and it can be confirmed at any point. So you don't have to revisit it. And if they attempt to revisit it, you can say, well, this is a point that's already been agreed. It clarifies. So something is just unclear, then the summary clarifies that. It draws attention to key issues. So especially when you have a dedicated summarizer, they should absolutely be prioritizing, what are the main points that we've discussed. You don't need to summarize literally everything if there was a point that was off topic, etc. But the key issues, you need to make sure that they have been collected. It helps you to gain the initiative. This is a really interesting one. Often in a negotiation, you'll find that one party or one side dominates, and that can be to your detriment if you are missing out on your negotiation process and your contribution to the discussion. So by giving a summary, it gives you back control. If you say, okay, let me just give a summary of what's been discussed here, you give the summary, you are now the person talking, and then you say, okay, and then the next topic we want to talk about, or the next agenda point is this. So it really gives you back the initiative. It buys thinking time, especially when you have those separate roles. The lead negotiator has been talking, talking, talking. They ask the summarizer for a summary. So the summarizer is now giving that while the lead negotiator is thinking, okay, what's next? What did I say that I need to elaborate on? Or what did they say that I want to ask them more questions about, etc., etc. It slows the pace. It's almost a mini break giving a summary because it's the lead negotiators are stopping for a moment. The negotiation itself is stopping for a second to check in and make sure that everything has been understood and clarified before moving forward. It can break argument circles, the classic thing of going around and around in a circle with an argument. I say this, you say that, and then I say this again, you say that again. A summary can really help to break that because what it also does is emphasizes the collaboration. It emphasizes, you can emphasize the common ground in this. You can emphasize what's already been agreed. That should certainly be a part of the summary. Confirming disagreement or agreement and restate and explore. So again, the summarizer can say, we touched on that point. So lead negotiator, that might be the next point for us to discuss to go into it further. Always summarize before closing. You see that is in bold, red capitals, very important. This means before making a final agreement, summarize. Before leaving the negotiation table for a break, summarize. Before taking a pause or anything like that, make sure that you're summarizing as well. So summaries are really, really fundamental.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like a very beneficial thing to do for both parties involved in the negotiation. It's just something that brings benefits.
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, we see it all the time where summaries are not given regularly enough and something has been misunderstood or missed. And then when you get to the end, suddenly I'm working on an assumption of an agreement that's different to your assumption of the agreement because I thought we agreed on something and you never actually agreed to it, or vice versa. And it really can derail the entire thing. And it would have been stopped if a summary had been given 20 minutes earlier that's there to clarify and make sure it's clear what's been agreed and what hasn't. Because when you give a summary, the other side might say, actually, no, we didn't agree to that. And then you have to revisit it rather than getting to the end and saying, oh, okay, we missed this point an hour ago and now we've wasted an hour.
Yeah. So, many times in complex negotiations where there's more people involved, you take breaks. Yeah.
Mhm.
When do you take breaks in a negotiation?
Yeah, yeah. So breaks, absolutely. Even if a negotiation is 1 hour in total, you should take at least one break. And especially if you have the negotiation team with an observer, because the observer is not able to give you much of that information as a lead negotiator at the table. Because they're going to be talking about tone of voice, they're going to be talking about body language. That is a separate conversation you want to have away from the negotiation itself. So, when do you break? Well, to consider new points or proposals. So if somebody makes a big proposal, then maybe you need 5 minutes to talk about it. Maybe you need 10 minutes to think about it. You need to consider it, especially if it's quite complicated. Um, you don't want to sit at the table while you're doing that. You take a break and you go away and you discuss with your team or you think about the proposal they've made. Definitely to stop an emotional discussion. If there's an argument going on, if the heat has risen too much, then absolutely, intervene and take a break at that point to cool things off. To slow the pace, definitely, to make sure that it's kind of a steady progression and we're not kind of jumping right to the end, because that can be a tendency of, well, look, um, I've come here for one thing, you've come here for one thing, let's just agree on that and go home, which is fine if that really is all you need. But what we're teaching here is this process of searching for more, finding the intend to haves, bringing in the tradables and making it not just a normal agreement, but a great agreement for both sides. When you're stuck in an argument, we've already highlighted that. When you need to reconsider, so if there's any point you need to think about, definitely take a break. When you discover new information or when you need to consult, as we said, with members of your team is really, really important.
Okay. So let's say you are in a negotiation and you feel like you need to break a little bit too often. Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a lot of stuff that you need to clarify. What do you do then? I mean, you cannot break every 5 minutes, right?
No, you cannot. What I would suggest doing then is, I mean, I think it's unlikely that you would ever feel the need to break every 5 minutes. And really, if that is the case, then that's hinting at a different issue that needs to be resolved. The answer to that is not breaking every 5 minutes. The answer is, where is the point of conflict, or what is causing this, or what is the pace of the negotiation that we feel the need to break this regularly. So I think that's very unlikely you would feel the need to break that often. But if you feel like you needing to break too much, then I think yes, the pace needs to be slowed, more summaries, maybe taking a step back to more of an exploratory phase. Where you're just, going back to your active listening and question asking processes. So I think that would be what I would do. But yeah, really uncovering what's causing that issue is more important than anything.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe we go back to the homework you do before a negotiation. Yeah. So if there's more participants in a negotiation, they should definitely do their homework so that they don't have to take a lot of breaks during the negotiation, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, there's nothing worse than having a negotiation with somebody who is not prepared for it. You want to go into a negotiation with the skills, but also with the necessary knowledge about how their company works, about what complete the hit list for them as well, what you think they're going to want out of it. Check out what your competition is doing for potential BATNAs, all that kind of stuff. And that's definitely going to just make the whole process so much smoother. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you need to break, how do you do it? How do you
hmm
break? What do you say? What do you explain?
hmm Yeah. So you should never, it's not as though you need to make an excuse to break. The purpose of the break is very clear. So if somebody makes a proposal, you can say, thank you so much for the proposal. We'd like to take a short break to consider it. Let's reconvene in 5 minutes or whatever it may be. Or if somebody if there's an issue that's that's been back and forth and there's some conflict, just say, there's this issue we need to resolve. Let's just take a 5 minute break to consider it, and then we'll come back to look for a solution. The very natural. The reason for breaking is very, very natural and is very much a part of the process of negotiating. So it's definitely not anything to be surprised about. If you're concerned about that, what you can also do is at the beginning of the negotiation, in the agenda, or even just verbally, you can say this negotiation or this meeting is 60 minutes. We anticipate that we will need one or two adjournments during this process. So you can already set the expectation that there will be breaks during the process, but it shouldn't ever be an issue, especially if they themselves are trained in negotiating, because everybody that's trained in negotiating will take adjournments. So you said, how do you do it? Well, um, 100% you should always summarize before adjourning or taking that break. If you don't summarize, then the risk is that something is unclear. We spend 5 minutes in our team in the break room talking about it, and then when we come back, we've kind of developed an idea that's based off of an incorrect assumption, that's based off of something that was misunderstood. That is an absolutely no. You do not want that to happen. You want to make sure that going into an adjournment, everything up until that point is very, very clear. So summaries are the best way to do that. As we said, you can explain that you need time to consider certain points, to consider the proposal, to consider this area of conflict or whatever it is. Be clear of how much time you need. So make sure you say, oh, let's take 5 minutes, or let's return at 10:15 or whatever it is. The next point is really useful one. Suggest points or proposals for the other party to consider. So you can give them something to think about, right? You can say to them, okay, we've still got A, B, and C left on the agenda, so please consider those points in the adjournment. Or you can say, here is our counter proposal. Please consider that in the adjournment as well. And the final point there, yes, always withdraw to a private area. It is very possible or very likely, if you're in a negotiation and you adjourn, if you're visible, they're going to be looking at you thinking, taking the observer role. They're going to be looking and thinking, hey, are they happy? How are they reacting to this proposal? Why do they all have grimaces, and why do they look angry, or why do they look like they've just won the lottery? You know, so you really want to make sure that you go somewhere private, somewhere that there's eyes cannot see you, and that you can really feel that you can have that open discussion and express yourself without being observed by the other party. And it's common courtesy as well that they should be able to do the same. So in terms of how do you break, that is exactly how you do it. And you really should be having a break, again, at least one in a 60-minute negotiation.
Right, it's all clear now.